Though most of you will disagree, but I think Margaux was a great addition to the cast, not only because I am as an European some kind of partial. I love when Americans cling to Europe even if it is just for some kind of flair and nothing substantial. Shows that we share some of our cultural background. By the way, this was a reason for me why I enjoyed the first half of season 3 and the story arc around Father Paul that much. All these allusions to Christianity and the Catholic Church. Yet she and Pascal are another one of the reasons why I love season 3 so much. I know many see just the last season and her poor attempts to take revenge on Emily. But still, even that was a far more thrilling storyline than all the stuff they did with David and Malcolm Black, who took so much space in the first half of season 4. I really wished they had gone full in with Margaux pursuing a vendetta against Emily full force from episode 1 on forward. But I am already in too deep. First to her backstory, which is again in revenge tradition very thin for a character that important. When she is first introduced, we get to know about her past with Daniel.
Je voudrais un tournevis vierge.
Margaux. I mess up one order when I'm 14 and you'll never let me live it down.
You seemed very happy with your orange juice.
How long's it been?
Well, since before you knew how to properly ask for a drink.
Which mirrors in some kind Emily's and Jack's connection as kids. Yet Daniel and Margaux seem to be regular holiday friends who have seen each other when the Graysons stayed on vacation in France, maybe even in Paris. Cause Victoria seemed to have a soft spot for the city in her heart. However, I imagine a summer home of the Pascal in South France, maybe north in the Bretagne. Something at the beach. So they have the same memories as Amanda and Jack when they think about their holidays. A huge difference between Jack's and Amanda's pure and sweet childhood romance is that Margaux and Daniel actually got to see each other grow up. If I understand it right, in their conversation they got to know each other as teens as well. Maybe Daniel or even both had a little crush when they were younger. But more about that when we talk about Margaux's relationships. A far more bigger shadow casts Pascal, her father, over her life. Obviously their relationship is tense, because she seems to be part of a patchwork family with Pascal married at least 2 times. And Daniel tells us she has at least 2 younger brothers. Margaux seems to be the oldest child of Pascal and from his first marriage, which seemed to take a typical turn for a workaholic. It failed because he was very absent in the life of his wife and daughter. So they have an estranged relationship, and Margaux seems to feel the need proving him that she can stand on her own without his help in business. And that is the simple reason why she is in the States. She wants to launch a magazine far away from her father's interference.
He sent me this with all his critiques. He hated it. I've done all this work and then he insults me like this? I got into the best schools on merit, worked from the bottom up at our competitors, and approached you only when I was ready. That's why I asked to launch a relay in the States. This has never been my final stop.
Which brings us to her most obvious character traits, ambition and perseverance. It is funny that she shares many qualities Emily and Ashley have. 2 of Daniel's ex-girlfriends, so he seems to have a type. And even though he tells Sarah that he does not want to marry his mother.
It took until today to realize that Emily and my mother are the same person, and I do not want to marry my mother.
All 3 women share striking similarities with Victoria, too. All 3 are very strong and ambitious. They follow their own agenda. For Margaux, this means getting out of the influence and comfort zone with her father Pascal. She wants to create something of her own and wants to make her own name. And we see how persistent she can be when she sets herself a goal. Very much like Emily and Victoria. When she gets to know about Conrad and the conspiracy, she is like a dog who does not want to let go of his bone. She digs deeper and deeper until Jack stops her because he is afraid for her safety.
That there's more to Conrad than you're letting on. And that the story I'm so desperate to tell somehow involves you.
Conrad Grayson is responsible for both the death of my wife and my brother. He's a bad man, Margaux. I know you. You're a fighter. I thought you'd try to make him pay, and since I've lost everyone who's ever tried, I didn't want to lose you too. Look, I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but if you keep digging, you'll put yourself in danger.
I know it is selfish, but I wish he did not do that. Cause it would have been far more interesting if Margaux had joined Team Emily to take Conrad down. They could have disagreed about Victoria because of her connection to Margaux's father Pascal. But she could have been a part-time ally like Stevie and Mason. And her vendetta against Emily in season 4 would have had an even stronger motive if she was out for blood because what happened to her father Pascal.
And let's not forget what she did to your father, who died trying to protect us from threats that she made posing as a Homeland Security agent.
Agent Rebecca Stone, Homeland Security. It's enough to detain you indefinitely!
Sure, Conrad was the one who killed him. And he got what he deserved in the final episode of season 3. But it was very much untypical for her to just let it slide when Daniel told her the whole story.
I think Emily was working with my dad.
This goes far beyond business rivalries or jealousy over Victoria. I need answers, not protection.
So making her the big antagonist between Malcolm Black and Victoria in season 4 was not such a bad idea, cause they established this revengeful side of her by the end of season 3. For me it was stranger to see that she was on Emily's side in the first episode. I mean, Daniel told her about his suspicions on Emily, and after Victoria's disappearance and Conrad's murder she has no better plans than to congratulate Emily for leaving Daniel behind and throwing a party in the former Grayson mansion who now belongs to her.
And I was curious to see how you would erase Victoria from here. Thoroughly, it seems. I regret letting Daniel color my earlier opinion of you.
Is she not a little bit suspicious how Emily fits into all that happened to the Grayson family and her own? Okay, Daniel seems not to be a reliable source, as Margaux pointed out in season 3 that he uses Pascal's fate for his vendetta against Emily.
You used this investigation to further a vendetta against your ex-wife.
No, not a vendetta.
And he already tried to manipulate her once.
Was that all? Because I just think it's odd that he's trying to push you to leave now that Emily's single.
Daniel, stop. You're trying to manipulate me.
No, I'm just trying to get you to open your eyes. It's time to do what's best for you.
But we talk about her father, with whom she had a real nice reconciliation scene before his death. Who does not want to know what really happened to their own father and what secrets lies in his past? So when she was willing to dig deeper into Conrad's past over a scandal which had no ties to her and her family on the surface, why is she not eager to learn everything about Emily Thorne and her vendetta against the Graysons? She could have gone to Jack or Nolan for advice. She even could have asked Daniel, since he was married to Emily and knows some part of her scheming. Anyway, I love her development in season 3.
Me? I'm just a silly daughter of the great Pascal LeMarchal. Who could believe I was involved in such devious plans?
When I arrived here, I was worried for my little girl swimming with the sharks. Now, I'm more worried for the sharks.
I must admit, since season 1 the writers are quite good in showing us how the Hamptons and especially the influence of the Graysons can change and corrupt people. Cos Margaux starts pretty much naive and sweet. Maybe it was no coincidence that Ashley left when Margaux arrived. Cause she seems very much modeled after her. She is very smart and driven, yet easy to manipulate by others. Especially when her emotions are all over the place. From the beginning Daniel has some kind of skill pushing all the right buttons with her.
Oh, hey, don't let him get to you. Okay, it's not worth it.
No, you're right. You're right.
I must admit, in season 3 their relationship was as much intriguing as disgusting for me. Because she seemed so needy, especially after her father's death, and Daniel seemed just to use her for his own career.
You're the new CEO. Don't worry, don't even think about it. I'll handle everything for now, okay?
Anyway, the only flaw she shares with Ashley is her ambition, and she is willing to do anything to reach her goals.
You didn't trust me?
I trust myself more.
Not in the sense that she is prostituting herself like Ashley did twice. First when she became an escort girl in that flashback episode, and second when she seduced that businessman.
Well, let me guess. My father sent you here to screw Goodbay for his vote, didn't he? Is that what happened?
No, the writers of Revenge have evolved. Cause in the scene when she is trying to seduce Daniel, she looks not at all desperate. She just wants to have fun, and I must admit that is the only thing I disliked on her introduction to the show. They went for the very common French clichés that every woman in France has a loose moral when it comes to fidelity. Margaux seems to have no problem with the fact that Daniel would betray his fiancée.
Well, that could be because you're not wearing a bra.
Or because boys never grow up.
You didn't catch me looking, did you?
But you still noticed. But let's catch up tomorrow at your girlfriend's memorial day party.
Margaux, Emily's not my girlfriend. She's my fiancée.
Oh, my mistake.
And she also seems to see no big difference between a girlfriend and a fiancée or a wife. Maybe a side effect of the bad marriage their parents set as an example for her. Anyway, I was glad they smoothed this when she was engaged with Jack and later with Daniel. Which brings us to the next part, her relationships. Most obvious are her romantic entanglements with Jack and Daniel, but I want to start with her father Pascal. Cause he seems to be the most important man in her life. And he casts a big shadow on Margaux's life. Like Conrad did to Daniel's life and David to Amanda aka Emily. Sometimes I think this could be the real theme behind Revenge, how parents screwed up their kids. Cause Victoria has that trauma with her mother.
Victoria, come here quickly. You just couldn't control yourself, could you? Batting your eyelashes like a little whore. Come here. Come here! Take the gun. Aim for his chest. No, I can't. We'll tell the police that he attacked us. My God, Victoria, if you don't do this, they will take me away from you forever. You will be all alone. For God's sake, do as I say.
And Conrad was pushed around by his father, too.
I didn't build my empire from the ground up so I could watch your domestic failures single-handedly tear it down.
Her complicated relationship with Pascal is for me also the reason why Margaux is the best fit for Daniel. Cause he has a very bad, maybe the worst relationship with his parents.
This really is business as usual for you two, isn't it?
Daniel, it's time you stopped blaming us and started shouldering some responsibility.
What, like you shouldered the responsibility for bringing down that plane 20 years ago? Oh, wait, you let David Clarke do that for you. All part of the plan? Exactly how much blood are you two comfortable with? Because I just hit my limit. I know ruining lives is in your DNA, but I'm not allowing another innocent person to pay the price for our sins.
His sister Charlotte has at least the fact that David Clarke is her biological father. Which is kind of sad cause before season 4 that was more of a burden than a consolation. And when she finally can embrace her legacy, David is gone again. Anyway, most of her motives and actions in season 3 derive from her desire to break free from her father and create a legacy of her own.
Oh, that's why I've moved here, to start the American version.
And with a strong brand behind it, it's not an easy prospect.
Which is why I'm doing it, against Pascal's wishes. Sometimes it needs crossing an ocean to get out of a father's shadow.
Maybe this is the reason why Margaux is attracted to Daniel and Jack in the first place. In season 3 and 4, Daniel tries hard to separate himself and his life from the influence of his parents. First when he breaks with his father and starts a vendetta against both his ex-wife Emily and Conrad.
I wish you luck on your crusade, but I won't be joining you. You really think I want to be a part of this anymore?
Finally in season 4 when he tries to break free of his mother Victoria.
Look at you now, you're alone. So thanks, Mom. Thanks for being a cautionary tale. One I won't dare let happen to me. Because I'm trying to separate myself from my family's sins, and I would think that you, of all people, would understand what it means to be defined by them.
And since Jack lost his father and brother, he is very much on his own. In a much smaller scale than Margaux, he is working on his own business with the bar.
Mr. LeMarchal, it's so nice to meet you. I always enjoy meeting a fellow self-made man.
Also trying to start a new life after the death of his wife.
It's time for me to try to move on.
So here are some similarities, too. Besides the times Daniel falls into his old patterns, he is also very much ambitious. In season 2 he led a coup to take over Grayson Global and throw his father out of daily business.
Success suits you. Wall Street's new golden boy.
And in season 3 he is constantly scheming against Emily and her friends.
I'm merely testing a theory.
Oh, so this is about Emily.
And your maneuver to steal Nolan's protege, isn't? Happy hunting.
So he is a natural ally for Margaux, who learned long before season 4 that playing fair does not get you anywhere in the Hamptons.
I'll fill you in on everything later, but it's time to show our fathers what we're capable of. Care to join me?
Certainly in a fighting mood.
Interesting is how she stands to the connection between Pascal and the Graysons. Superficially, the Marchal and Grayson family seem to get along quite well besides some friendly rivalry.
Actually, we're on our way to the club for a round of tennis. Your father's still smarting from the time I beat him in Saint-Tropez. Revisionist history. A Grayson specialty.
And Margaux is also okay with Pascal marrying Victoria.
I still can't believe you're engaged. Oh yes, I believe it.
It does not surprise her at all. Maybe because she knows the two have a history, or maybe because she is not the first new wife at Pascal's side since him and her mother separated. It is interesting that Conrad seems to be the big bad here. Sure, he was the one who killed Pascal. And Margaux knows enough about his bad business practices. She has seen firsthand how he treated his son Daniel.
You want to get in bed with the devil?
I assume Satan will want the corner office.
Maybe this is the reason why her father Pascal does not seem as bad to her. What strikes me is that everything Daniel told her about Pascal does not destroy her image of him. Even though he warned her before.
Even if it threatens the last memory of your father.
She seems not at all surprised or shocked about the things he told her.
Even as a little girl, I preferred to call my father Pascal. He was so distant to me, it seemed right. But now I wonder if I was keeping my distance from him.
Perhaps I already sensed he was evil to his core.
And in season 4, everything seems to be forgotten and Emily is the big bad now.
Oh, you ask me. She's worthless. As it turns out, are her friends. So I will take her down.
Again, the writers of Revenge show a lack of psychological characterization and less empathy for the characters they have written. I mean, Conrad killed her father and she still is friends with his wife Victoria and even sleeping with his son Daniel. Are we supposed not to care at all? Like she does. There is just such a huge gap between season 3 and 4. By the end of season 2 they found this not at all creative way to make everything go away by saying it was all just a big lie designed by Conrad.
There is no initiative, my dear. There never was. Not really. Simply a consortium of savvy business persons who perfected the art of profiting off other people's fear. Of course, one decides to play God.
To get out of the dead road with the initiative. Okay, we let them get away with it cause we all hated that storyline with the initiative. But at the end of season 3, they had many unanswered questions and many conflicts that they could have used to take over in season 4.
David.
If they already knew that they would use Margaux as a revenge target for Emily and wanted to make her start a vendetta against Emily, why did they not use the motive she already had and jump right to it, instead of giving us this lame Malcolm Black villain? And do not tell me they had to give us an explanation why David was gone for so long. Cause this whole construct with him being abducted from prison does not answer nearly half of the questions we and Amanda had. Even without knowing Emily's true identity and the real reason for her vendetta, Margaux and Daniel know enough to see Emily as a threat. She targeted his family and was in some kind involved in Pascal's murder. Plus the knowledge both have about the David Clarke conspiracy and their father's involvement. That should have been enough to dig deeper and take a stand against Emily. I mean, where has Daniel's motivation gone in destroying Emily or make her pay for, I quote, the hell the bitch put me through?
After the hell that bitch has put me through, she deserves to have her nose rubbed in it. Appreciate the concern, but I'll dismantle mine my way. Limb by limb.
He was so eager to dismantle Emily, and at the beginning of season 4 he just goes back to being a party boy in self-destruction mode. Just like his little sister Charlotte.
You're going pretty hard tonight.
I don't want to think anything. I don't want to feel anything.
More ambiguous than Margaux's relationship to Pascal and Conrad is her relationship to her almost stepmother Victoria. I truly believe she sees her in some kind of family, especially since she is so isolated in the States, being far away from her real mother and her siblings. And it is not only because Pascal wanted to marry her. After Daniel's death, Victoria must have been a real support for the pregnant and very vulnerable Margaux. I think this might have been the most unforgivable crime that Victoria is using two very vulnerable and sensitive women for her war against Emily, aka Amanda, Louise, and Margaux. Both are only susceptible to Victoria's manipulation because their lives took a bad turn. Louise is drugged by her family and almost believes she is crazy, which makes her very unsteady.
Are you sick?
Family's been drugging you.
Margaux, I don't feel so good.
And Margaux lost two of the most important men in her life, her father Pascal and the father of her child Daniel. So they both are more than easy targets for Victoria. Sure, Margaux started the war with her appearance full of hatred and anger.
But believe me when I tell you, I do not play. I'm going to make it my life's journey to see you pay for what you've done. And that journey begins now. We bury Daniel on Friday. You will not be there.
But I am sure if she had took the time to talk things through with Emily, they both would have understand each other. And Emily would have been the last person who would be that unforgiving. After all that Margaux had to endure. In many of her conversations with her father David or Jack, she shows sympathy for Margaux and even compares her actions during her vendetta with Margaux's actions now.
Margaux was reacting to our lie. She lost her baby. You didn't know Margaux before all of this. Daniel's death changed her. She's trying to salvage the name of someone that she loves, just like I did for you.
So Emily is well aware that if she was in Margaux's place, she would probably react in the same way. For me, that was some of the best learnings and progress they gave Emily in season 4. She seems finally to understand that her mission was nothing special and that there are better ways to deal with such experiences. But back to revengeful Margaux. Just like Takeda manipulated young Amanda, I think Victoria has a lot to do with Margaux spiraling out of control. Even if at first it seems that she is not supporting her vendetta.
Emily's not worth your time. Revenge is a dangerous game.
But in psychology there is a concept called negative reinforcer. And I think Victoria telling Margaux time and time again how dangerous and what a big mistake it is to go after Emily could have been a twisted way of making her want to do this even more.
But heed my warning. Emily hasn't left a trail of evidence. Do not do anything until you have irrefutable proof.
Margaux is everything but competitive and driven, so it is not that hard to push her into this direction. So taking Emily down might have seemed in some kind also a challenge for Margaux.
Is that the best you could do?
Nice try, though. If you're gonna keep coming at me, you're gonna have to be a hell of a lot smarter.
You think you're invincible?
Not invincible, just better.
I will find your weak spot.
And since her emotions must have been all over the place not only because of her pregnancy, but also because of the loss of Daniel, it is far easier to manipulate her and make her feelings overtake her. Even more as she did not fully cope with the fact that she is pregnant and now gonna be a single mother. And of course the whole empire of LeMarchal media on her shoulder. Margaux must have been very terrified about the future that lies ahead of her. One reason more to concentrate on something else which she can control. By the way, a character trait I forgot earlier. Margaux seems to be a real control freak. We see it when she has to deal with both Grayson men, Daniel and his father Conrad, who interfere in her magazine.
This is not about negotiating. He's out to destroy you, and I won't allow my success or my family's reputation to be killed in the crossfire.
Her fear of losing control is another character trait she shares with Emily. Cause her pregnancy and running away from Daniel in season 4 made it clear that she cannot cope that good with surprises and unexpected situations or circumstances such as her unplanned pregnancy.
We have to make this quick. I have a very busy day.
I understand you're still angry.
Oh, I'm not angry. I'm realistic. You're very good at saying the perfect thing when life is easy, but when choices get hard, you run away.
Only one of us running, Margaux. It's not me.
And an unreliable baby father. Anyway, manipulating her must have been as easy as child's play for Victoria, whom Emily called a master manipulator once. Another thing, both and Victoria seem to be in the very same position.
I want him here.
Me too. But we'll get through this together, Margaux.
Will we?
Of course, we're family.
They lost everything. Victoria has nothing more left of her family. Everyone who supported her is dead, like her men, or broke her with her like her children. And Margaux's family is on another continent in Europe, and she knows no one else besides her employees in the States. And since she mistrusts Emily and her friends, she cannot turn to them. So it was only natural that both women would support each other and strengthen their relationship with this, in their eyes, righteous fight against Emily, aka Amanda.
I was so blind. Emily went to extreme measures to ensure we all were.
What are we going to do about it? My father's death. Your son's. Emily was behind all of it.
They both believe that she is responsible for everything bad that happened to them and their families. For me, Margaux was one of the last victims of Victoria's manipulation. First, she tried to get rid of Amanda by turning Daniel against her.
I left out a suspect. Doesn't it strike you as odd that the bullets that killed Tyler came from Emily's gun? He threatened her, and she had reason to kill him.
Don't you find it odd that she happened to date Aiden Mathis, whose father planted the bomb on Flight 197, and that she was close with Amanda Clarke, whose childhood home she was living in? There's a connection.
But since she did not leave, and Victoria learned that it was never about her son. Instead, Emily's vendetta started long before and had more to do with the Grayson's sins in the past. She just changed allies. In season 4, she took everyone who was willing to help her. Even turning David against his own daughter and using Louise against Nolan.
There's something I need to tell you. The truth is that I was locked up against my will.
Who's Conrad?
No, someone just as hateful. Because of her, my life is in shambles.
I can help.
No, David, you've already done enough.
Tell me who it is.
Her name is Emily Thorne.
I do not want to diminish Margaux's role and her free will, but she was manipulated by Victoria right away when she told her about Emily's vendetta from her very own perspective. Sure, it was Margaux's decision alone to keep Emily away from Daniel's funeral as some kind of punishment. And for the most part of her vendetta, Victoria was no part of it. But she did little to keep Margaux from retaliating against Emily and her friends like she promised.
I'm holding to our truce, Victoria. I don't want any more loss.
Neither do I.
And tell Margaux to leave Jack and Carl alone.
Oh, Margaux. Well, she's in mourning.
And maybe without the bad influence of Victoria and the unhealthy environment the Graysons created, Margaux would have never gone so far to start a vendetta on her own. Anyway, I think they made it pretty clear that everything Victoria touches is poisoned. In season 3, she manipulated Pascal to go after Conrad to get rid of him for good.
Conrad will keep coming at us unless we stop him.
I know. There is something I could do, but it's not without risk.
And in season 4, she did the same to his daughter in order to get rid of Amanda.
You're like me, Margaux. Once you have a target, you will not rest until you hit it.
So it's safe to say that Margaux's life will be better after Victoria's death, even if she has to spend some time in prison before she can start new. Most fascinating is the change between Margaux's views on Emily and the relationship with her. In season 3, she seems not to waste that many thoughts on Emily. She gives not a damn about Daniel's relationship to Emily.
Margaux, Emily's not my girlfriend. She's my fiancée.
Oh, my mistake. I can never keep up.
Even though they are engaged and plan to marry, Margaux tries to seduce Daniel. Just because she can, and in conversation she falls for Emily's act as this harmless socialite with a philanthropist and social streak.
And what do you do? I mean, besides throw lovely parties?
Well, I work for a lot of different charities, making sure people get what they deserve.
She even seems to look down on her a little bit because she has no real profession. So at least with New Hamptonites, Emily's cover still works. For a long time, Emily Thorne seems just too unimportant for Margaux. Even Daniel's vendetta and his tries to manipulate her by making her jealous of Emily's and Jack's close relationship has only the potential to annoy her.
You're trying to manipulate me.
Just when Daniel brings Emily near Conrad and the murder of Margaux's father Pascal, suddenly she is interested in his ex-wife.
I need answers.
But not for long. In season 4, everything Daniel said to her seemed to be a conspiracy theory, and she is now on Emily's side.
I regret letting Daniel color my earlier opinion of you.
Well, we've both been burned by that match.
Which is strange, since a blind can see now that Emily despises the Graysons and especially Victoria. So how can Margaux be friends with Victoria and stay that neutral to Emily? And later when she is in a relationship with Daniel, why did she not ask him about her? She must have had a million questions. So her change of heart after Daniel's death seems not at all natural. Why is she blaming solely Emily? She must have second thoughts when she heard Victoria's story.
Emily deserves to pay for what she's done. She may not have put the bullet in Daniel, but she's the reason so much misery has come into our lives.
Even her biased version of events must have told her that Emily was not to blame for Daniel's death.
Daniel didn't die trying to kill Emily. He saved her.
I still think 2 different paths for her would have been a better storyline for her after season 3. The first one, she never stopped pursuing the story about Conrad's past and the David Clarke conspiracy. Like Stevie, her sense for justice and morality was just too strong to let this go. And of course her curiosity and sense for a good story. So she would have uncovered more details. Even stumbled about the identity swap. Cause after Frank found out so quick in season 1, it is just unlikely that no one else but Victoria could uncover Emily's secret. Especially with those resources Margaux has on hand after Pascal's death. Anyway, she could have learned about Emily's vendetta herself and had to make a decision. Would she expose her to Victoria, who would with no doubt crush her? Or would she talk to her first, warn her and even join her revengenda? Margaux could have been a great asset in getting more information about the conspiracy out in the open with her media imperium. She could have easily slandered the Graysons in the media. And path 2 had been open after Daniel told her about Emily's involvement in Pascal's death. Like with the investigation on Daniel's death, this was something that came to nothing. So like when she confronted Emily about that poor investigation results regarding Daniel's murder, she could have gone to her and asked her herself.
My attorney just spoke with the police. Apparently they will not be naming you as a suspect in Daniel's murder. Self-defense. They're going to make that official. I know you're lying. You played a game with the police, with Victoria, with who knows how many others.
Margaux never came to me as a person shy to solve a conflict in person rather than plotting and hiding. Emily might have had the chance to explain herself. But I assume it would have gone the same way as in season 4.
I'm going to make it my life's journey to see you pay for what you've done. And that journey begins now.
Margaux would have sworn revenge for her father's death and just assumed Emily was working with Conrad. By the way, this assumption always makes me laugh a little inside.
You were marvelous last night, Mrs. Grayson. Until our next rendezvous.
Cause all Emily does after her failed attempt at the wedding is to come up with a plan to take Conrad down.
We need to take him down.
So why the hell would she collude with the man who destroyed her father and was responsible for his death? I guess her act that she likes her father-in-law and how she cared about him when they thought he had Huntington's disease at the beginning of season 3 was just that good.
Miss Thorne.
I decided to do some baking. I thought I'd share. The blueberry.
That's my favorite. I'll consider it. And ironic that my wife is the only woman in this family who doesn't care about me.
Anyway, would have been cool seeing Margaux plotting against Emily before she went after her friends and allies like she did later in season 4. I know it would have been repetitious, but Daniel or Charlotte, who was spiraling out of control at the beginning of season 4, could have joined her vendetta. And of course Victoria, after she broke up with David, could have joined the club and they would have made a shortened last season. That would have been far better than this storyline with Malcolm Black. I mean, they could have still made up all these side plots with Louise, Nolan and David. But it would have been far more organic for Margaux to go after Emily. And the why would have been clearer than this construct that she wants revenge for Daniel and her baby. Margaux is not dumb, so she must have known all along that Emily was neither responsible for the death of her late husband. Not that the accident in which she lost her baby was Emily's fault.
Amanda Clarke is not a killer. She caused you to lose your own child. Emily didn't push me. That it was my fault. If I hadn't been consumed by this endless feud, I would still be carrying my baby.
So revenging her father's death might have put her on a similar path like Emily.
When deception cuts this deep, someone has to pay. Sometimes all you have left is revenge. Like I said, this is not a story about forgiveness.
Emily deserves to pay for what she's done.
But was revenging her lover not the same Emily did after Aiden's death? She was not pregnant, but she lost a happy future with her fiancé, just like Margaux lost her happy future with Daniel as a family. And I think these similarities would have also made a great opportunity for the two women to work together. 'Cause after all, again, Margaux lost everything because of the Grayson. Conrad killed her father because he was blackmailing him, and Victoria drove him in this direction. So like they destroyed Amanda's father David, the two did the same to Pascal. And if Daniel had not been caught up in this war between Emily and his family, he would have never gone over to save her. So in a way, Daniel's death and sacrifice is due to the Grayson couple as well. If Daniel had sat home with Margaux, he would have read about Emily's attack in the news. And if Margaux had not started her vendetta encouraged by Victoria, she would not have had this car accident. If she had seen Victoria for what she truly is, a manipulative black widow who really destroys everyone close to her, like Emily called her out at the cemetery.
No one would mourn you. You destroy everyone who gets close.
Margaux would have gone straight to Emily, apologized for her wrong views on her, and worked with her to get rid of Victoria for good. But I guess with this concentrated female power, Victoria would have been finished in no time. Let's move on to her few romantic relationships. It is astonishing that her longest relationship was actually with Clarke-Porter, who was her boyfriend for most of the time in season 3. Even though he clearly still has feelings for Emily, aka Amanda.
Maybe Daniel's right. You love Emily, don't you?
And even though Margaux is attracted to Daniel.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean for you to see this side of me.
Kinda like it. Why, because Daniel talked you down? Yeah, I saw that.
I don't like jealous men.
I mean, in her first episode she tries to seduce him. Even before he got married to Emily and all the drama with his ex-girlfriend Sarah. I must admit, at first I hated this relationship because I had the same prejudices as Emily.
More so now that he's not in that suit. It's as if Margaux was trying to turn him into someone he's not. I just mean that Margaux's from a different world than Jack.
But if you think about it and about what I said earlier regarding the similarities between Emily and Margaux, it actually makes sense. Jack had surely a crush on Emily in season 1 even before he knew she was Amanda. So Margaux is absolutely his type. And she seems to me a very sensual and emotional woman. Not in the same way as Fomanda, of course. But there are some slight similarities. And since I rewatched scenes from season 3 for this character study, I agree they made a nice couple in season 3. Jack and Carl seemed to be some kind of a safe harbor for Margaux when she was dealing with all that crazy stuff Conrad and Daniel threw at her. By the way, they are both in a situation where they have to start new.
I came here to start a new life, and to leave the one I'd grown accustomed to in France far behind.
Margaux moved from France to the States, and like Charlotte pointed, it did not know anyone else but those people who were business contacts and the Graysons, who are old friends of her family. And Jack is trying to start a new life after his wife and brother died. I hate to admit it, but since season 2 he also tries to break free of Emily's bad influence. With no success, which is not always good for him.
I could never hate you, and not for lack of trying.
But that is another story for Emily's character study. Which will be the last, as you might have already assumed. I mean, she is the lead and the most important character of the show. So this one will be the longest and toughest to make. Back to Margaux and Jack. On the surface they are not at all a good match. 'Cause they come from very different social circles. But I think by the end of season 2, with Jack's connections to Emily and Charlotte, and as owner of a bar, not employee, Jack has won some standing, at least in Montauk. And after all he has been through and discovered regarding the Graysons, he is far less naive than he was in season 1. So in my opinion he has evolved in a good way. After that kiss in the first episode, they made us believe Emily and him could have a chance by now. But I guess they just wanted to keep a love triangle alive, since it was clear after season 2 that Aiden would stick around.
Okay, well, let's just hope you've done a better job of thinking things through when it comes to Emily.
It's endearing what you're doing, but you've no right. I know the two of you had what could only be described as puppy love, but that's the past, and it's forgotten. I'm the future.
You trying to convince me? Or yourself?
I have to let her go, but you obviously can't.
Yet it was also clear that Emily now despises Daniel, and they could not rewarm this love triangle from season 2.
Daniel can tell you're faking it with him.
I can't stand to be around him.
If you want to pull this off, you're gonna have to get past that.
So they went, in my opinion, a little half-hearted for this new love triangle between Emily, Aidan, Jack and Margaux. As I said, in many regards Margaux is filling the gap Ashley left. I still cannot decide what I make of the scene in which Emily saw Jack and Margaux kissing. Other than the wedding kiss between Amanda and Jack, when we saw that Emily was truly happy for the two. And her tears obviously were meant for Aidan, with whom she had a big fight. In this scene she seems truly sad that her chance to be with Jack is gone again. Yet when working together with him and they fight about involving his mother Stevie, there is nothing more than friendship between the two.
Look, you and I are finally getting back to a good place, and I'm trying to get there with my mom, too.
So season 3 was for Jack and Emily no good season. The more I see that him and Margaux worked quite well. She is not challenging him like Amanda, and he seems truly happy when we see the two together. Even though, or maybe because Margaux has such limited time for him. The problems of the two start when Daniel intervenes and Jack got problems with his mother, which seems not to bother Margaux at all. His sentence to Emily that he came to her because he wanted to speak with someone who gets it speaks for itself. And unlike Margaux, Emily's first question when she sees Jack is,
"How's Stevie?"
Grayson's really hurt her.
Jack, I'm so sorry.
I know. I guess that's why I came. I needed to see someone who gets it.
Not only is Margaux not getting what Jack had to endure because of the Graysons, she also does not care. With him she repeats the pattern she told Daniel and Emily about. Her father screwed up 2 marriages over his job. Because he was a workaholic who never made time for his family. And that is the whole problem with the two. Jack is a real family man with not that much ambition. He just wants a normal and happy life for his son. Maybe he is secretly dreaming of more kids, but he definitely does not want to wait for his wife to come home and that she has no time for him when she needs him as a support. I mean, who does? And Margaux is in a phase in her life where she wants to achieve something. Build a legacy is her first priority. So she is not in the mood for playing happy family besides some very little reserved spare time. As we see in season 4 when her relationship with Daniel progressed, that is something she has to change if she really wants a family of her own.
We have to make this quick. I have a very busy day.
You probably want to think about slowing down.
I'm not doing this with you. I have way too much on my plate right now.
Stop thinking about your company for 1 minute.
It is interesting that her problems with Daniel are in some kind the same as with Jack, but also the opposite. Jack is very reliable and almost too needy, while Daniel is not at all trustworthy or calculable.
I need a man who doesn't make rash decisions.
Really? Because you had that with Jack Porter and you needed more.
He cheated on Emily when his interest in her faded, and he cheated on Margaux when he had the chance.
What are you talking about?
You slept with her.
Don't be ridiculous. Why would I sleep with her?
So I can relate to Margaux that she thinks she and the baby would be better off without him. Sure, he would be a great father in the sense that he would do literally anything for this kid. But as I said before, he is just not at all reliable. And since Margaux seems not to be the type to take a long maternity leave, she needs a reliable partner on her side, who keeps her back while she can concentrate on her work. Jack would have been the best candidate for this job. Yet Daniel had a lot of work to do before he could be that guy for Margaux. I do not doubt that he wants truly to try and be better.
I thought maybe you had changed.
Oh, wait. I can be better.
He said it before to Emily at their wedding.
I'm gonna be a better man to you, and an even better dad to our baby.
And I am sure he meant it both times. It is just hard to change old habits, and Victoria and Conrad did a real great job in screwing their kids up and messing with their heads. On the other hand, Margaux seems not to be the perfect mother either. So maybe both could have learned to be better and become better people on the progress. I must admit that after she screamed out that news, I was rooting for them.
But I can't believe I let myself fall in love with you.
I deserve a better answer. Why?
Because I'm pregnant.
I mean, Louise interfering. I am not for slut-shaming, but she literally threw herself to Daniel. And Daniel is a weak man who still thinks he can get away with everything because his last name is Grayson. I get that Margaux is afraid of being hurt by him, but I guess that is the risk with falling in love. It is the same risk Emily takes by going after Jack and trying to lead a revenge-free life with him. To keep it short here, in my opinion, the flaws and twists and turns in these two relationships made them so intriguing. Daniel and Margaux might be my favorite couple in season 4, because they seem not as rushed as Emily and Jack in the end. And with Margaux being pregnant, they had a real reason trying to make this work, not some childhood fantasy. So I believe his sweet sentence that Margaux should be his first incomplete disaster.
It might be nice to have one thing in my life that isn't a complete disaster.
So I'm your incomplete disaster.
Well, so far.
Okay.
I think their relationship was much more mature, even though Daniel is more of a child than Jack. Jack had the bar and his little brother he had to care from the beginning of season 1, and before that he learned to take care of another living creature as he took care of Amanda's dog Sammy. And after Amanda's death he was a single parent, so taking responsibility was his main job in life. While Daniel always had his parents and later Emily who helped him out when he messed up. First during the murder trial and later in all that mess with the initiative. But back to Margaux and Daniel, I think the writers were really cruel here because they gave us for a little moment the illusion that everything could turn out fine for Daniel.
You're right about me.
No, I wasn't. We can be better together. Please, Daniel, come home. I need you. We need you.
I mean, after Emily lied to him that she was pregnant to trick him into marrying her, he surely thought about becoming a father. Yes, this was not planned, but from their last phone conversation I was sure they could have found a way to work this out. But instead Daniel was just another casualty in the war between Emily and Victoria. Exact the one thing he told both women he never wanted to be again.
I'm telling you right now, there is no way this ends well for you. And I am not about to get caught in the crossfire. I'm walking away.
Because when your ex-wife finally goes down, she will find a way to drag you with her.
What if I find her first?
So what do you want?
Your assurance that when this thing with your dad explodes,
none of it lands on me.
So keep you out of it, that's all you want.
That's all I want.
Done. You won't even cross my mind.
Before we get to my favorite moments and episodes with Margaux, we have to talk about her relationship with 2 other men on Revenge. First, we take a quick look at one of her siblings, cause the only relative besides her father we get to see is her brother Gideon. Another reason why I think they modeled the Marchal family after the Graysons. Cause Gideon seemed to be as bad and spoiled as the 2 Grayson siblings Daniel and Charlotte. And he is certainly as ruthless as Conrad and Victoria.
Wait. Is she... Did you...
I didn't do it. I paid her in coke per her request. She's the one who didn't know her own limits.
You didn't try to save her?
I didn't incriminate myself. There's nothing I could do.
Gideon really shows off the worst character traits of his father. He is hot-tempered yet very resentful. Obviously he cares for nothing other than his own needs and desires. Like Malcolm Black, the other big psychopath of season 4, he lacks of compassion. He is jealous of Daniel from the moment he sees him working with his older sister. It seems to me that he has inherited Pascal's bad view on women. So he thinks that Daniel would have stolen his sister from him by preying on her and becoming more than just her colleague. Even Nolan thinks that Gideon's proposition on how to get even with Daniel is too extreme.
Besides, now we have the photo we'll use to blackmail Danny. It's a win-win.
This isn't how I do business.
What is now?
Your brother said the same. Just given her history, it makes me wonder what Gideon wants with her. As if squeezing her brother out of LeMarchal wasn't enough.
Daniel stepped down of his own volition.
Did he? Now I am curious what Daniel would say if you asked him about his night with the redhead.
So tell me about the redhead.
I found her OD'd. All I could think at the time was what this would do to me, what this would do to my name, your company.
What I didn't know at the time was that Gideon was there when she died. He took a photo of her and used it to blackmail me and force me out of LeMarchal. Now, yes, what I did was indefensible. Yes, I should have called the cops, but I don't know, I panicked.
It seems that's what he was counting on. As if he had planned it.
He got the room that night. He picked the girl. Part of me has always wondered if he just got lucky she OD'd.
You think my brother killed her?
Again, the writers let a good opportunity pass by. I mean, this war between Margaux and Daniel on the one side and Gideon on the other side could have been a great side plot for more than just 2 episodes. I guess they thought if they would overdo this it would interfere with Louise's family conflict, but as I said before, it seems dysfunctional families is the overall theme behind Revenge. So exploring this and the family past, maybe even with some flashbacks how Pascal and his patchwork family did not work out that well, would have been fun. Instead they solved this problem rather quick and just used Gideon's downfall as foreshadowing of Margaux's downfall into darkness.
So you got rid of him first?
I didn't have a choice. Gideon is going to prison. Although for what he's done, he deserves much worse.
Didn't think you had it in you.
Well, you underestimate me.
And you misinterpreted that as a compliment.
Still trying to protect my soul. It's not evil inside us, Daniel.
Speaking of which, the last man that has some influence on her behavior is Nolan. After being Emily's conscience for over 3 years and having tried every possible angle and intervention to get Emily's attention to what he has to say about her bad behavior.
Addicts cannot be trusted to be by themselves.
Not an addict.
You are the very definition. Maybe it's time for an intervention to force you to be who you really are. What if I went out there and told everybody that Amanda Clarke is alive and well.
He really goes to extremes with Margaux. But we will come back to this later. First, I really hate how she treats Nolan and puts him in this impossible situation with Louise. And how she is exploiting her relationship with Victoria and Daniel only to get near to David Clarke because he is the best story right now. Like Emily said in her outburst, it is just despicable. In the television interview and later when she publishes these paparazzo photos of Emily and her father as some kind of gossip about a new affair. Margaux and LeMarchal media shows us what is all wrong with this business. I must admit I like this meta level, but from the beginning of season 4 it is really hard to root for Margaux as a character. Besides her scenes with Daniel, everything is business with her. Especially with Nolan and Louise. She does not give a damn if she is hurting the poor unsteady girl. And the pressure she puts on Nolan, who tries to do the right thing and fails as usual, is just damaging.
Now, why did LeMarchal media call my brother asking about my father? I know you've been working with Margaux and digging up dirt on me, but for the life of me, I cannot understand why.
Look, LeMarchal is helping me to save my reputation.
For the price of mine?
Anyway, he gets back at her in the end when he confronts her with his first and long-lasting love, computer technology. I get that he is angry and out of his mind because Ben actually died. His friend Jack might be dying next, and Emily is in more danger than ever because Margaux hired that assassin. But I must admit it is actually Karinne Vanasse who kills this scene and makes a point.
You and Emily are far from innocent. I know the crimes you've committed for her. Can't you see that you and I are the same? Everything we've done was out of loyalty to the people we love. I've lost people too! My father, Daniel, I lost my own child! And it doesn't matter how hard we try, we can't get them back. We can't undo what we've done.
Cause as much as I understand his logic that he and Emily are better than Margaux and Victoria because they never crossed that line killing someone. This is a rather fine line, and making somebody's life hell can be far more punishment than death, like Emily said to David after Victoria was mourning Daniel's death.
I'm not inhuman seeing her mourn Daniel. It gave me pause. It doesn't erase what she's done.
Killing her would. Death for Victoria would be merciful. She has nothing left. Now is the time to let her suffer.
And while he seems in this conversation for the first time to recognize Margaux's pain, it is her absolute devastation and truth that revenge helps nothing. So for me, her trying to take responsibility for her own actions and ending this vicious cycle by helping Nolan to take the assassin down, and more importantly not interfering with Emily taking down Victoria once and for all, Margaux has earned herself some kind of redemption.
He once told me not to abandon my soul like he had. He redeemed his by saving a life. I need to honor him and redeem mine. If it's our decisions that define who we are, then this is who I am.
So we are getting to the last part of Margaux's character study, her development during the show, and my favorite moments and episodes from the show. I still think that she is a great character in both seasons. She is strong and fearless and does not let herself be ruled by men.
Apologies if you misinterpreted my attempt to seduce you as a sign of weakness. But I'm editor-in-chief. I put who I wish on the cover.
Neither her father nor Daniel or Conrad. In season 3 she always tries to find a way to get the best results for her and her business. Even when she has to face two real powerful and dangerous men, her father Pascal and Conrad Grayson.
Je vais être là quand tu vas le virer de mon entreprise, papa.
Ton entreprise? Écoute, tu m'as demandé de m'occuper de Conrad. Alors laisse-moi faire, d'accord?
So going after Emily, who seems to be a threat to her and her happiness as well in season 4, is not that out of character for her. What surely is, however, was her need for revenge. We have seen before that minor characters like the Ryan brothers got their little revenge plot, but besides Emily and the Graysons we never had a character on the show who went on a revenge mission. And the Graysons, besides Victoria, maybe were always on defense here. And did not do anything more but to retaliate. So I get that after David had his little revenge mission with Malcolm Black, season 4 seems like a weird opposite version of the seasons before, like the Upside Down World and Alice in Wonderland, where everything is a little bit off. If you remember Nolan's words from some of the first episodes, this surely was the plan for season 4.
Do you have a plan?
No.
Okay, perfect. No plan. No list of bad guys. No photograph with their faces on it. Nothing.
And I must admit I like it. We knew that after Emily took down Conrad and Victoria the show would be either over or had to go in a completely new direction. And I think bringing David back and changing the game by putting Emily and her friends in defense was the best, even if the most obvious idea. I get that they had to spare Victoria's revengenda till the very end, so they had to come up with a new but not less vicious enemy. They failed with Malcolm Black, and as always revenge shows us that the men are weak and cannot at all reach the revenge potential of the women. So they went for the only female character left who is as strong and ruthless as Victoria and Emily. Which shows her whole development from the beginning of season 3 to end of season 4. I mean, who had thought when she was introduced as some kind of Daniel's childhood fling that the same woman would pay a hit woman?
How could I say no? I love a kick-ass, powerful kind of girl.
But let's go back to the start. I must admit I love the scenes with her and Daniel at the beginning of season 3 before he starts to use everyone around him for his vendetta against Emily. They already seemed a good pair and team in this season.
So I wanted to pop by and thank you.
I didn't do anything.
You've been a good friend. Beside me for the whole ride, since I was a 16-year-old girl, complaining about her father, until right now. We make a great team, Daniel.
I know this smile. It is pride.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it feels pretty damn good. Best part is the words Grayson and Global aren't anywhere in sight.
I've grown up in publishing and you're a natural.
So it was only natural to hook 'em up. Though or maybe because it is so full of cliches and not at all original. I like her fights with Pascal and standing up to his old very macho-like picture of women. We see a real generation conflict in this. Pascal, Conrad and Victoria are the typical old white men with their antique thoughts and worldviews. While Emily, Margaux and in some kind Daniel, Jack and Nolan incorporate a new worldview which is not necessarily more diverse but at least acknowledges there are other ways to lead a happy family life for women and men.
It's on Gideon cause he's to take over.
You're grooming him to run things?
He has shown loyalty and determination.
I got into the best schools on merit, worked from the bottom up at our competitors, and approached you only when I was ready. That's why I asked to launch Relay in the States. This has never been my final stop.
Then why make plans to become a part-time wife and stepmother?
Of course you can comprehend a woman who can work and have a life. That's why you came back for Victoria. I imagine she's sitting at home waiting for you.
What I hated in season 3 was her scenes with Daniel in the second half of the season. Do not get me wrong, I like the dynamic between the two and that he helps her to deal with her father. But in this season Daniel shows how manipulative he can be. He tries to break Margaux and Jack up only to hurt one of Emily's friends and isolate him.
Daniel wants to use him like he uses everyone, including you. He gets off on doing this to us, and I wish you could see that.
Maybe a bit out of jealousy because he has caught an eye on Margaux already. But it is not fair to manipulate her in that way. And using Charlotte for this, his little sister, I cannot see how Daniel can fall to this low only to retaliate against his ex-wife.
Daniel, stop. Don't listen to him. You're trying to manipulate me.
No, I'm just trying to get you to open your eyes.
More I despised his duplicity with Margaux and Victoria regarding Conrad and Pascal.
Anything I can do for you?
You can tell me how your father came to learn of Pascal's intentions. Did you tell him?
Of course I didn't tell him.
A part of him thinks in a twisted way he is doing this for Margaux to get rid of Pascal. Maybe he thought Conrad would go along with his plan to ship him off to France or even to let him spend a few days in jail. But did Daniel not see the risk here?
Yeah, you know, this won't sit well with your mother. She's going to accuse you of betraying her.
Please. She was the one who was foolish enough to trust him. Besides, there's many upsides to getting rid of Pascal.
He knows since season 1 that Conrad is capable of murder when he thinks he has no other way out.
Tell me you didn't have him killed.
No, the kid was in too deep.
Dad,
If he started talking, it would have destroyed us all. I couldn't let that happen. I do what I need to do to protect the family. I always have.
And this war with Pascal and his jealousy because of Victoria surely is that kind of situation in which he feels pushed against a wall, just like he felt before they framed David Clarke. So what was Daniel thinking? Was he okay with the possibility of Pascal's death? The death of the father of his soon-to-be girlfriend? I mean, this was great drama and I wish they had made this clearer by revealing his deeds to Emily, Margaux or Jack. Anyone who could have shed a light on Daniel's despicable character in season 4. But I guess they never wanted to destroy his character completely. So they left this a bit in the shadows. Still, I hate Daniel for that. In season 3 he was really the worst. Anyway, I love that you could see Margaux's character evolve through season 3. So I loved that they expanded her role in season 4. That and bringing David Clarke back were my favorite decisions the writers made. Even if most of you will disagree. But I love that we had this vendetta between Emily and Margaux. Because since this was the last season it was obvious that her war with Victoria would be endgame. I actually like that they in some kind mirror Emily's story with this. Amanda lost her childhood and her father. Margaux lost her father, too, and her unborn child.
I thought I almost lost you.
Not me. The baby. He's gone.
And both lost the love of their life. So as twisted and cold as it sounds, I love the scenes in which we see Margaux in pain. Karinne Vanasse is such a good actress, and her very big desperation shines through in every scene. Even when she is furious and seemingly has the upper hand over Emily. She is so fragile in this season. Though I hate the execution of the scene, her car accident, and the dialogue with Emily before was one of her best scenes.
Do you think I'm a fool?
Just the opposite. I believe you're a good person, Margaux, who got caught up in all of this.
Your word is worthless.
Or you can accept it as a peace offering. You can choose to end this.
The only way to end this is by you telling the world the truth of what happened to Daniel. Otherwise, this gesture means nothing.
Please, Margaux, there are other ways.
No, Emily. There's only one way, and it's not yours.
Because in fact it is her own fault that this vendetta got out of control. And stepping out on the street before looking was one of her last fatal errors. And I am one of these who think they make Margaux fail on purpose. Not only to show us again how good Emily is in this and that no one can be better in revenging. So it is useless to try.
Is that the best you could do?
Nice try, though. If you're gonna keep coming at me, you're gonna have to be a hell of a lot smarter.
You think you're invincible?
Not invincible, just better.
No, they give Margaux a lesson here. Cause her mission is useless in that regard, that no one can give her the loved ones back she lost. And nothing can undo this pain. Aiden realized it first in season 2 after he had accomplished his mission by revenging his father and sister.
There's no end game for Emily. All these years of training, trying to focus my anger. I always thought when I avenged my father and sister that I'd get some kind of peace or closure, whatever that is.
Well, you must have felt something when you killed Trask.
I felt empty.
And Emily must have felt it at the beginning of season 4. When Nolan wanted her to enjoy that her mission was complete after Conrad's death and Victoria being imprisoned in psychiatry.
What they said about the girl who gave up revenge. She lived happily ever after.
So her scene with Nolan, in which Margaux explains herself and make us not only see but feel her pain, was extraordinary. She really stole Gabriel Mann the show, who just had to react to her superb playing, I guess.
No, arrête!
It's no use, Margaux. You can't escape this. Doesn't matter if you admit it or not. I have proof. You hired the mercenary that murdered Ben, put Jack in the hospital.
I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I was only trying to put Emily back behind bars where she belongs.
Where do you belong, Margaux?
Can't you see that you and I are the same? Everything we've done was out of loyalty to the people we love. I've lost people too! My father, Daniel, I lost my own child! And it doesn't matter how hard we try, we can't get them back. We can't undo what we've done.
And again they rushed into the finale by giving her this tiny little scene to redeem herself.
Margaux, you should go.
No, I'm staying. I started this to get justice for Daniel. He once told me not to abandon my soul like he had. He redeemed his by saving a life. I need to honor him and redeem mine. If it's our decisions that define who we are, then this is who I am.
I wish we had known how her fate was. Was she imprisoned for all that she had done? Or did Nolan and Emily help her to get out of this hopeless situation? Yes, she had nothing more to lose. But her life would have been screwed, cause all her wealth and her father's media empire would go to the next in line. And Gideon, her younger brother, which she screwed over with Daniel's help, would surely be not that forgiving. I think if Daniel did not die, he would have been some kind of a mediator between his girlfriend Margaux and his ex-wife Emily. Because at the beginning of season 4, when he and Margaux worked together to get rid of Gideon, Daniel criticizes Margaux for her ruthless behavior.
Didn't think you had it in you.
Oh, you underestimate me.
You misinterpreted that as a compliment.
He could have also warned Margaux because, like Victoria, he knows firsthand how ruthless Emily can be. So if you want to screw her over, you must be twice as ruthless. This could have been a great conflict between Daniel and Margaux. Because he would have recognized how this vendetta changed her. Victoria, who just seeks an ally, does not give a damn, but Emily once mentions it in a conversation with her father.
Margaux was reacting to our lie. You didn't know Margaux before all of this. Daniel's death changed her.
And Jack is some kind shocked about Margaux's changed views on Emily and him as well.
This is a knee-jerk reaction with you. Defend Emily no matter what.
Poor Jack.
You hitched your wagon to a damaged psychotic horse, and she's pulling you right off a cliff.
So this could have been a cool storyline. Repetitious, of course, since we had this conflict in all seasons with Emily, Nolan and Jack. But I think seeing Emily on the other side and teaming up with Daniel to save his girlfriend from becoming full dark could have been a nice storyline. The only thing I really hated was this back and forth at the end of season 4. First, that really awful scene after her accident when Margaux lies to bring Victoria on her side.
Margaux, I know this is difficult, but talk to me. Tell me what happened, please. Because whatever led to this loss, our loss, requires an explanation. Tell me.
She said she wanted peace. She gave me her word, but then she pushed me.
I mean, why does Victoria need a reason to go after Emily? In the very first episode, she told Amanda that now is her time for revenge.
What do you want?
You chose Revenge. Now it's my turn.
So why stop after she had lost David and Daniel and has truly nothing left to live for? And losing her grandchild must have been the last drop to drive her mad again. I mean, even before Margaux told her, she said to Emily that there are no accidents around her.
It was an accident.
Around you, there are no accidents.
The car came out of nowhere. I was trying to end this.
Get the hell out of my sight.
So this scene was just bad and redundant. And later, when Victoria is fully on board and sets her own plan in motion, it seems as if Margaux is no longer willing to pursue this.
I just spent the entire morning making sure that Conrad's conspirators not disrupt my case I'm building against her. When the government gets this evidence and puts her behind bars, the story is yours.
Please, Victoria, let it go.
She caused you to lose your own child. Why don't you care?
Because I lied. Then I can't stand in your way.
But I won't help you either.
Though I must admit, hiring a hit woman was some kind of extreme. Emily did never go that far in her vendetta, even though she believed the Graysons killed her father. Anyway, it was a big confusion at the end, and I still cannot figure out if Margaux just faked this reluctance to keep Louise on her side, or if she truly had second thoughts about her alliance with Victoria. I would prefer the second cause. It would give Margaux a true chance for redemption.
I knew she was in a dark place, but it's normal to look for answers at a time like this.
But maybe she just showed us her duplicity in the last half.
I wasn't myself when I asked him to hire you.
You were the darkest part of yourself. Don't be ashamed. Own it. You're risking your life to save your enemies?
I have nothing left to lose but my soul, and I'm not willing to give that up just yet.
And even fooled Nolan in the end with her last scene.
It's her Cayman account info. It's tied to records of every fatal accident she's ever staged. Don't worry, I removed the connection to you.
Anyway, what do you think about Margaux? Do you hate her character and wish she went back to France after season 3? Or do you like her character in season 4? Let me know in the comments below.